Hello, folks. Here we are. We're still in Montreal, and we're having another conversation with a Montrealer, Quebecer, who also travels to the U.S. a lot on his podcast. He's out there with media, and he wants to make sure the conversations are fair, unbiased, and out there. His name is Nico Lagan, and you can find him on the Political Orphans, along with his partner Rob, we'll get into his name, and other shows that he does. He is very open to having conversations all over the U.S. and Canada. He is very in tune with good-hearted people, and he makes sure that he has fair conversations. He's very entertaining, and he's very outspoken. Hello, Nico. How are you doing today?
Very entertaining, yeah. I like it. What's going on, man?
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot for having me here in Montreal. I was checking out your place, met your wife, and we have a cell phone on the table here because at any moment I think can buzz. What's expected?
Yeah, 37 weeks, 37 and a half, I think.
Your
so
first?
It's literally whenever at this point.
So if you have to go, you have to go. We'll understand, especially in Alberta. We want to repopulate the right way.
Yeah, because we need 2.1 minimum, and we're getting replaced right now, so we definitely need to do better.
So your show with Rob, what was his last name?
Rob Ambrose.
And what brought that show on?
You know, I'm a conservative. I'm a Christian conservative, so I'm technically far right. I'm a Nazi. I am homophobe. I am all the words you want because I'm nowhere to be a lefty. And I've been creating content for years now, and I realized that there needs to be a conversation for the people on the left, traditionally on the right, because, you know, if you take a look at our last election, a lot of liberals don't feel that the party represents them anymore. The Conservative Party definitely does not represent me. So I wanted to have somebody that considers themselves a liberal so that we could have a conversation about everything that's trending in the news, so especially politics, and open that conversation between two people that should disagree. But then we've been doing it 7 months now, doing it 2 hours a day, live every day, and it's very interesting how, if you consider the bell curve, like people agree on about 75% of things, and it's absolutely right. So even though he's a liberal, I'm a conservative, I would say that we agree on about 75-80% of stuff. We often see the same problems, but the result or the solution is different. We think the solution should be different, but it's very interesting because most of the time when we see a problem, we're like, yeah, we agree that it's problematic. So I just found him on X because I record a lot of podcasts. I like the guy. We spoke for a couple hours the first time we spoke, and I offered it to him. I'm like, it would be great if we start recording, and we've been doing it for 6-7 months now.
Now, traditional media should have both sides of the story, but your show seems to be an outlier. You actually have two sides to this story, the conversation here in Canada, political one specifically. Now, it is weird now in this landscape to actually have both sides of the story. Did you find that when you entered the market that there was a desire and audience for that?
It was never intended. You know, I've been attending events like the NCI, for example, and people are like, what do you do? I'm like, I create content. And then they just look at me. They don't understand. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm media. Okay, I guess I'm independent media now. And I don't like that term. But this is where we're at now. Because as you said, there's no more conversation. If you're looking at CBC, literally CBC said during the election, we're a few seats away from a majority. The host on the show of CBC said that we're a few seats away from a majority. And Rob and I were covering it, and we're looking at each other. We're like, excuse me? You don't work for the Liberal government, at least. That's the image that you should portray since you're publicly funded. But this is all we have. Like, unlike the U.S., you know, in the U.S. you have Fox, you have MSNBC, and technically they're the same, but they're not. Like, they like different people. But we don't have that in Canada. Like, you don't have a right wing. You have a Rebel News, for example, that's as right as you're going to get, but it's independent. But even Rebel News don't have lefties on their show. You don't have righties on lefty shows. So there's definitely a hole in the market, and nobody else is doing what Rob and I are doing right now. Like, nobody else is doing it. And we're just two guys that do a lot of research that see that there's a problem, and we wanted to open that space where people could talk. Because the thing with our show is not just Rob and I talking. Like, I would say out of 2 hours, we probably take comments for about an hour. Like, we really think about old school AM radio. I'm a big fan of AM radio, and that's what I had in mind. Like, create a show that is online that people can call in. Instead of calling in, they comment, they leave comment on the show, and we just respond to them. We have conversations with people literally an hour out of 2 hours every day. We have a question of the day, depending on what's going on. So we really are trying to build a place where people can show up and have their voice heard. Because how many people out there are political orphans? I don't have a party that represents me. I don't. Rob doesn't feel represented by the Liberal. He voted Conservative at the last election. So as a Liberal, he voted Conservative. But let's not lie to each other. Pierre Poilievre is a Liberal. He's not a Conservative, he's a Liberal. But at the same time, you're starting to see that switch. And there's so many people out there that are political outliers. Like, I'm building a plot. Like, I make millions and millions of views just on Instagram alone. And I've been talking the way that I do now for years. I've never walked the political party line. And I would say that I'm the hardest critic in Canada of Pierre Poilievre. I've called him out so much because he's not a real conservative. And I get hated. Right now, I'm getting as hated from the left as I am from the right. So I must be doing something right, right?
That is the litmus test now, is when both sides hate you. When you get into the hate online, and even death threats and stuff like that.
Yep.
Like, you are the reason why we're going to get a Liberal government.
100%.
Because, yeah, we hear all these as well. Now, one of the things that I really enjoyed about your show is it feels less like you're propagating a narrative. You're more research and information and more investigative even. Like, you're getting into the issue and bringing that information forward. That's a new type of format. I haven't seen much of that in Canada.
We do deep dives all the time. So the Liberal has proposed Bill C5, Bill C2. Before anybody else was talking about it, Rob and I had read the 140-page Bill C2, for example. We had run through it, and we had produced 2 episodes. 1, an overview. 2, we realized after the overview, we're like, yeah, we need to deep dive into it. We had John Carpe from the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedom came on the show, and we stumped him because I didn't know him. I just reached out to him. I asked our followers, I'm like, do you guys know a constitutional lawyer that would have the balls to come on the show and talk about this? They're like, oh, John Carpe. Okay, cool. I reached out to his team. They responded. We had him on. We stumped him. We're literally, okay, page 19, subsection 2.81, second sentence. It says this. How does that affect the criminal code? And he's just like, I don't know. So the point is that we're just 2 guys that are not happy with the way Canada's going. We want to talk about the real subjects that are going on, and him and I don't walk a party line. As much as we disagree all the time, and I disagree with a lot of the people that are in the comments, we're always able to have that discourse, to have that polite conversation. And that's all we ask from our listeners too. You can insult me all you want. That's fine. I'm used to it. People do it every day, all day. It's fine. But you're not pushing the conversation forward. And that's kind of the space that we're trying to create, to be able to have that debate between 2 people that disagree, but show your work. Rob says that all the time to people. You want to insult us? No problem. Show the work. Don't just call us name because you disagree. Tell us why you disagree so that we can engage with you. But to me, that's just common sense. What's the point of talking about what's going on if you're in an echo chamber? And that is all I'm seeing right now. I'm not. And that's as much for the left as it is for the right, because a lot of the content creators on the right, they don't do lives, they don't interact with people directly, and they walk the party line. And that bothers me. That really, really bothers me, that you can tell that there's certain things that they won't say. And that's a problem. Who's supposed to hold our conservative, I'm a conservative, small c. Isn't it my job to hold the conservative big C to account? Who else is going to do it if it's not me? I'm not a yes man. If I disagree with you, I disagree with you, and I'll tell you why. So why are we not doing that more? It blows my mind that it needs 2 yahoos like Rob and I to do this. But the space is there, so we're taking it because nobody else is doing what we're doing, and I don't think people have the balls to do what we do because they're too scared to lose their following.
Yeah. And I saw that during this election for sure. It came out in spades. influencers that were like on the freedom side, and everybody said freedom, freedom. But when this election came around, they're like, no, you don't have your choice for your vote. You need to put your vote here. If you don't, you're now the enemy. It felt very divisive, very divisive. And this was amongst influencers that used to be friends and colleagues. I ran into that a lot, so I'm not surprised if you didn't as well.
There's people I have recorded content with that are very impactful in the conservative movement in Canada. They completely unfollowed me. They stopped responding to me. And at the end of the day, I really don't care, because that proves that you're bought. That proves that you can be bought. My opinion cannot be bought because it's my opinion. But this is what I've had balls from the get-go. So the people that follow me expect me to be the way that I am. I've never created a platform endorsing anybody. I'll be the first one to say, you're right. And I don't care that you're a liberal. I've agreed with things that the NDP's done. Once I was like, you know what? They were criticizing Trudeau. I was like, yeah, you know what? I agree with you. That doesn't mean I support you. But you need to be able to say they're right. They're wrong 99.9% of the time, but they're right sometimes. But it shouldn't matter that you're a liberal, that you're a conservative, that whoever you like, Maxime Bernier and the PPC. If they're right, they're right. If they're wrong, they're wrong. There's no problems in that. But it blows my mind that it doesn't matter if you're looking at leftists, if you're looking at centrists, if you're looking at rightists, they all walk the party line and they don't have the balls to just call it out.
I'm glad you brought up Maxime Bernier as a candidate for him. I didn't originally was a candidate. I was an independent candidate before him. And what really helped me make the decision was a conversation with him where I said, look, I have my platform, I have my show, but I don't want it to be a PPC platform. If I have to critique the party, I'm going to. And if I'm going to have guests on that critique the party, I'm going to. I do not want any barriers. Is that going to be okay with you? And his response cemented it for me. He goes, Jason, this is exactly why we want you to be a candidate. You have high integrity. Don't change anything about you. Stay exactly who you are. And if we need to be critiqued, then do so. That's why we like you as a candidate. That's rare. Because I didn't even get that with friends or colleagues or people I was on their show or they had on my show. They didn't have that kind of understanding. As soon as I said anything against Pierre, which was fair for a critique, I'm now the enemy, and I may as well be a liberal, and I'm supporting the Liberal Party. That was a narrative that was very strong in this particular election, and I'm sure you saw that as well.
All the time. To this day, I still do it because I talk against Pierre Poilievre all the time. Like, I'm telling you, I must be his harshest critic. I wish he had the balls to call me. Like, I know that he reached out to people that I know, like personally. He just called them out of the blue. I wish he had the balls to call me because I tell him what he's doing wrong. But at the same time, I don't think he's the right person no matter what. I don't think he has it in him to be a leader. At least, one of my buddies years ago said that everybody around him is part of his zombie team. Like in an apocalypse, he likes to imagine that he's in a really bad state. All the people around him, what purpose would they serve? Would I go to battle with those people? Ever since that, and that was probably 10 years ago, I always think about this when I'm looking at people. I'm like, okay, if really stuff hit the fan, do I follow you in battle? I look at a Pierre Poilievre. I'm not following you into battle. You've never stood up for anything unless it was put through meetings upon meetings and everybody agreed, you know what? Oh, yeah, you could eat that apple. It's okay. So that's the thing. And it blows my mind that people still don't understand that the state of affairs in which we find ourselves in Canada is as much a liberal problem as it is a conservative problem. Because if we had real conservatives that would stand up for real conservative values like men don't belong in women's sports, which is the number one swing topic in the U.S., Donald Trump won because he took a stance on that. Not the immigration, not the economy, because he had the balls to say that women don't have penises. Pierre Poilievre doesn't have the balls to say that. Yeah. How insane is it? Tell me one person that is a conservative or a common sense liberal that would disagree with that statement. He would have probably won the election if he had the balls to say that. And if I say that he lacks balls for not saying it, I'm the problem. Come on. Like, as much as I like Maxime Bernier, there's things that he stands for that I don't stand for. I don't understand why he still has, as a Frenchie, I don't understand why he still has such a thick French accent. Because that's not going to work in the West. Ontario people right now don't want to vote for a guy with a thick French accent. But I agree with his policies. I haven't heard anything that he said that I disagreed with. But even him, there's things he should have done to get better. but he's still the guy I like the most out of everybody. So you see what I mean? Me saying that is no disrespect towards him. It's a fact. If you want to win, he's never going to win with that French accent. Does that mean I hate the guy? Does that mean I don't condone what he does? No. There's always things. You need to be able to criticize your leaders. Who else is going to do it if I don't? If you don't? And does that make you your enemy? Because you were a PPC member, if you hear me say that Maxime Bernier is not perfect, that he has flaws that he should work on, does that mean we can't talk anymore?
No, absolutely not. And what I like about constructive criticism, and it comes from the place of actually trying to do better.
I'm a Frenchie. I'm a Frenchie with a French accent. I'm telling you, I've worked for 2 decades on my French accent to make sure that, yes, I have an accent. I always will have one. But I can talk to anybody in English. And I, most of the time, have a better vocabulary than English people. But the point is, I worked on this consciously for 2 decades. And I think he should do the same. But that doesn't mean I'm hating on the guy. I'm just saying, bro, if that's what you did, you'd sound so much better on videos. You'd be more appealing to people. Because God knows I know what it sounds like, what it feels like to have a massive, like a really thick French accent. And it's not pleasant to people.
No, and that's a fair critique. And I'm sure that's something that he's taken
a
few times. Yeah.
It's not
No,
easy.
he even makes light of it. We were at an event once where one of the gentlemen speaking, he was talking about how he's an immigrant to Canada and he worked really hard at removing his accent. And Maxine from the crowd said, must be nice. So he totally understands that it's something that's a bit of a crutch for him.
But that is a good leader. See, I have more respect for him right now knowing that he did that.
Yeah.
Because that is the same critique I got 20 years ago when I first started working in the call center and I was picking up the phone and I could barely speak English. Somebody told me, he's like, bro, you need to work on that accent because eesh. Did I go to the toilet and cry? No, I just like, can you help me?
C'est bon. Very good.
No, but it's true, though. That immigrant that learned English that doesn't have an accent anymore, that's the type of guy Maxime Bernier should learn from. How'd you do it? That means you did it. That means I can do it, too. So it's not a critique. It's just, it blows my mind that, you know what? It blows my mind that we need a show like what Rob and I do. It blows my mind that it's not common sense everywhere, that not everybody's doing it, that not only should you have 2 guys like you and I argue on what's going on and how we would deal with certain problems, but why not engage with an audience on top of that? Why not make it entertaining for the people? Why not give them a voice? People want a voice. People don't trust our voting system, and God knows it's hard to argue when Election Canada is saying themselves that they made mistakes and, oh yeah, but we're not going to rectify them. Yeah, sure, we'll trust you. But the point of the matter is there's so many bipartisan problems that needs to be addressed, but because one is considered a conservative and the other is considered a liberal, they shouldn't be able to have a conversation. Like, are you kidding me? Election problems is a bipartisan issue. It's as big a problem for the liberals as it should be for me. So why are we not talking about it?
Well, some of the conversations is liberal, conservative. We also have French and English, and we also have East and West. So during your coverage of the election, as CBC is saying, we're 3 seats away from having a majority, we being the liberals, you were doing coverage as well. And then you had me on shortly after it was announced that the Liberals were going to take a minority government at that time. And one of the conversations we had was, what's Alberta going to do next? You were very interested in what Alberta's next move might be. And a little bit surprised to hear some of the results that we're actually kind of happy, because this may open the door now to this conversation of independence in Alberta. And Rob, I remember from that conversation, it felt like he really learned a lot just having that quick conversation with me at the end of the election, that, he now understands why Alberta feels this way. Now, you've been paying attention a little bit more than Rob, but did you feel that transition with him there? He kind of started to wake up to what Alberta's been going through?
We've identified it. I think the first time we spoke to you, we've identified it as probably the biggest problem or the biggest topic in Canadian politics for the next 1 or 2 years. We both agree that it's a problem, that there's a problem coming, or there's a solution coming to the problem that's been happening for more than a decade. But again, this is where Rob and I disagree. He thinks that Alberta should stay in Canada. I completely disagree. I'm like, if I was an Albertan, I'm like, get out of there. Just be sovereign. Be sovereign or become the 51st state. Do what's best for you, because clearly Ottawa doesn't care about you. And it blows my mind that you guys are so patient. There's no way if I was an Albertan that I'd be that polite after 10 years of liberal policies that literally that literally destroyed your oil and gas. Mm-hmm. So we've both again, I think that's why the show is so good, because we both agree that there's a problem, but we don't agree on the solution. And that being one of them. But even him sees it. It's going to be a problem. Like, I personally believe that Carney is the last prime minister of Canada as we know it. Yeah. Like the Canada I grew up in. It's not going to be the same. Like, he's going to destroy it. But he sees it. But we need to cover it, because I think that's the difference that we're bringing, especially on Alberta, because we make sure to talk every single time there's something coming out of Alberta that we know that mainstream media won't cover. We will cover it just to make sure, because CBC doesn't shine the light on what Alberta is doing in a good way. Like, everything Alberta does as per CBC is wrong, mm-hmm. because you're going after Canada. But at the end of the day, they never talk about the fact that they've been screwing you for 10 years, that Ottawa's been screwing you for more than a decade now. So we know that there needs to be proper optics put, unbiased optic. Well, unbiased, not very biased on that. I'll be the first one to admit it. But there needs to be more exposure to the East so that they understand what's coming. Because the CBC is doing such a great job at keeping it under veil, like it's not a big problem, that when it does hit, the East is not gonna see it coming. And, at the end of the day, you guys are gonna be okay. Whatever happens, you guys are gonna be okay. Yeah. The East is in for a rude awakening, that's for sure. And they don't even know that it's coming. So that's why we want to cover it. But at the same time, we have a lot of people from Alberta that follows us. Just because I think they're happy that not only do we give them a voice on the show, but we're actually covering it the way it should be covered. No matter if we agree with it or not, we're going to talk about it, because it should be everywhere. Like, what you guys have gone through is insane, is absolutely insane. People don't even know about equalization payments. Like, that is a surprise to most people. Like, this is not new. This has been going on for decades. Like, what are you talking about? You don't know about the equalization payments. But that's a reality.
Now, there's a lot of parallels for the 1995 referendum in Quebec, where Canada's kind of coming together, saying, stay together, we love you, we want unity. The media is not being fair at all with the conversation. And the province is about 50-50 when it comes to separation or not. So there's a lot of parallels happening here with the Quebec 95 and Alberta today. Do you see some of those parallels?
No, I don't, because, we were talking about this before the show, where it was mostly culture. Because I was young, right? It was in like 1991. I'm 43, so I was like 10 years old, 9 years old. But I still remember this stuff. And it was based on culture. Like, oh, we speak French. For some reason, Quebec is proud to speak French, if you can call that French. And that kind of defines their identity. But in the 90s, I could imagine. In the 80s, I could imagine. But today, we've taken so many people in Montreal, for example, that we don't. You said it yourself that you had the hotel this morning and people weren't talking French at the restaurant where you were, and they weren't talking English either. Where did we go? We went to Walmart earlier, and I looked at you. I'm like, I don't spend a lot of time in Montreal anymore. I'm on the road all the time, and I don't like what Montreal is becoming. Like, the city that I was born in does not look like the city it is right now. And we were at Walmart earlier. I saw more women veiled than regular looking Canadians, as in what I would expect to see in Montreal. But that's our new reality now. So the thing is our culture is gone. Like in Quebec, the culture is gone because it was just based on language. But you guys are not, it's not a culture thing. It's economics. You guys are literally being destroyed on purpose by your federal government. You should be, I think Daniel Smith said you guys have lost something like $500 billion to $1 trillion over the past decade. That's a number that most people cannot comprehend what that means. Can you imagine the difference it would have done to Alberta? Like, I remember growing up in my 20s, like 20 years ago, I'd have friends that would go to to oil and sand. They would go to Alberta just to work the oil. They would go there for 5, 6, 7 months, barely have vacation, just send the money back home. Just send the money to their family, and they would make a killing doing it. That's not the case anymore. So it blows my mind that you guys, again, like I know I've said it before, but it blows my mind that you guys are so calm about this. That you guys are still so polite about this. I would have burned something up. Like I would have done something because we destroyed your middle class. You guys have literally, again, people don't know this, but it's not that hard to figure out, but you have the third largest oil and gas supply in the world. I would argue that Canada is the number one untapped natural resources in the world. And we have a government now for the past 10 years that wants to sit on it, and Carney has no intention of changing it because he's not removing. You can pass Bill C-5 all you want, but if you read Bill C-5, it's nothing. There's nothing in there. The conservative for once did their job, and they stripped the power away that the liberals were trying to give themselves, but they didn't remove Bill C-69. So no matter what, you guys are screwed. You still can be vetoed by Quebec that dumps millions of liters of polluted water in the St. Lawrence right here in Montreal, but they don't want a pipeline because it's not good. So, man, I feel bad for you guys. At the end of the day, I feel bad for you guys, but guys like you kind of give me hope because you're very, very, you're calm, cool, and collected. I'm happy that I know you. I'm happy that you keep me updated on what's going on behind the scene, but I'm just going to continue covering it and try to make it justice because you guys, the East needs to know what's coming and they have no clue.
Now, you seem to have a lot of empathy for Albertans. Is that a common thing here in Quebec? Because there's a lot of people who do feel Quebec shouldn't be in Canada as well. So is there some empathy in other Quebecers?
I don't see it. I really don't see it. I don't think the average, I don't know if it's, I've been struggling with that for a long time. I don't know if people just don't want to know. Are they willfully ignorant? Because I think they just don't want to address the problem. So do they have empathy for Alberta? I don't know that they realize what's really going on. And I don't know if they would, even if they realized it. Because one thing I see all the time, and that's kind of funny because they keep on showing on the show, but I get insulted. People insult, like people from Alberta insult people from Quebec and Ontario. And I'm always telling them, I'm like, you do realize I'm from Montreal, right? You're not hurting my feelings by any stretch of the imagination because I understand you. I know where you're coming from. But there's an animosity going on between, I think, Ontario, Quebec, and Alberta. So I don't think that there's empathy. I think there should be. But I don't know, man. I think people don't care. Unfortunately, as bad as this sounds, I think that people just don't care.
Well, as we heard from Matthew Ehret just before you, this could be by design, the divide and conquer. Mm-hmm. So have Quebec fighting Ontario, Quebec fighting Alberta, East-West, English-French is a good way to control a group because when they're angry and scared, they don't think critically anymore.
The Prince by Niccolo Machiavelli was written about 400 or 500 years ago. Italian diplomat. He set the stage for politics over the past few hundred years. And that is one of the techniques right there. If you're going to try to control people, make sure that the peasants are at each other's throat while you can do whatever you want. The Romans figured that out a long time ago. Give people the games and give them food and alcohol. They won't care. Nobody can convince me that football is not the new stadium of Rome, right? Same thing for hockey in Canada. People are more interested about, in the last election, I always look at what's trending on all social media. People were more interested about the hockey result than they were about what's actually going on with their election.
That's the sad reality of Canada for sure. And you still have the Montreal Canadiens. Yeah. And that was what Quebecers used to be called before Quebecers. And they still have that label. I'm kind of surprised that that's still around.
But I would argue, though, and maybe you can correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I think the average Albertan, because you've been taken advantage of for so long, is way more political. I think that the average Albertan follows more politics than anybody else in Canada. Maybe BC, I've met quite a few people and I spent time in BC. I think that people there are more political too. But when it comes to the East, like anything east of Alberta doesn't seem to be as political and people don't seem to care.
That could be because we understand fully that we can stand on our own 2 feet, economically speaking. We have a product that the world wants, and we absolutely can make this happen. And this is where you saw the Reform Party come from. So this is from Alberta as well, which eventually became the Conservative Party of Canada, if you follow the history of it. And when we had Preston Manning come out and say, hey, look, if Carney wins, it's going to be a big push for the independence of Alberta. And if you look at the history of the Conservative Party, it came from Preston Manning's Reform Party. But yet Pierre Poilievre sided with Carney on that particular one. He kind of turned his back on the history of his own party, which came from the West. And he's supposed to be from Calgary.
I was going to say,
right? He's supposed to be an Alberta boy. This is a weird little dynamic. Like, how is an Alberta guy turning his back on Alberta's wishes? And now he's going over there to run in a riding as well to regain his leadership of his party.
What do you think about that? Because Damien Carrick is who we were talking about, which I was looking at who he is, and he's a farmer. Mm-hmm. To me, I'm like, is that not the type of guy you want? Like somebody that actually worked for a living, that hasn't been a politician for the past 21 years, that not already has a pension, his full pension. He's a career politician. Don't you want to have a farmer that you can argue with me that he comes from money, that he has a big farm, whatever. He actually worked for a living. So shouldn't he be the type? It blows my mind that Damien Carrick, if I could speak to that guy, I think I'd smack him. I would smack him in the back of the head. Like, what are you doing? Pierre Poilievre doesn't deserve another chance. He doesn't deserve another chance whatsoever. Like, and especially, you know what blows my mind about Pierre Poilievre? He had the perfect game plan if he wanted to. Mm-hmm. All he had to do is look at what Trump did. Love Trump or not, Trump won the last election because he adapted, he pivoted, he rolled with the punches. They replaced Joe Biden at the last minute by Kamala Harris, a black woman that won the left. Like, she was the savior. Everybody forgot that she was the worst VP in history. But what did he do? He started going on podcasts. His son told him, I don't know if you heard that story, but his son told him when they replaced Joe Biden, because he was, if you look at the stats, if you look at the voting intentions when it was Trump against Joe Biden, were almost identical as Pierre Poilievre versus Trudeau. They were dominating the incumbent, and the only difference is that when Pierre Poilievre, when Mark Carney replaced Justin Trudeau, Pierre Poilievre just never changed, and Carney was able to take his policies and put a red background behind it and just say, oh yeah, that's a liberal policy. That's how much of a liberal he is, right? But I don't understand that a guy like Damien Carrick wants to give him the opportunity to take his writing that he's worked for and give it away to Pierre Poilievre. Like, I don't know what it's going to take for people to realize that they have lost the past 4 elections. Like, what else do you need to realize that you need the conservative of today are not real conservatives, and maybe that Canadians want a real conservative party, and yet they're trying to put Pierre Poilievre in place again because he had one great video 2 years ago where he was eating an apple. Like, I look at the state of the Conservative Party today and the people that still follow them the same way as MAGAs will follow Trump in the U.S. Like, we can't question our leader. And it blows my mind that people don't realize that the conservatives are as big of a problem as the liberals are. But they don't have the balls to admit it to themselves and to call them out that maybe we need real conservatives. And I don't know Damien Carrick personally, but I got a feeling that he's a better conservative than Pierre Poilievre is and probably could do better than him. And I'm not saying he would, but just his background, I'm like, I trust a guy that was a farmer way more than a guy that spent 20 years in politics and he's in his 40s. I don't trust career politicians. I'm sorry, I don't. I really, really don't.
Well, the neighbors of Damien absolutely loved him. 83%. They were giving him
83%. That's what he won on the voting. Psh. So it's the safe haven for Pierre Poilievre because he can't lose. I just don't understand what is it going to take for conservative people to just say, okay, enough. Like, we have Andrew Scheer right now. Really? Really? Andrew Scheer's a conservative to you? See, what is it going to take to have an actual man running the Conservative Party? Like somebody that looks like he's in shape, that actually takes care of his family, that actually is ready to stand up for something, maybe a Christian. But do you know somebody that has values, somebody that will stand up for what's right, that won't be scared of doing a 30-minute unscripted interview because he might say something that wasn't approved by his board? Like, what is it going to take for people to wake up that we need real conservative? We need to go back to a time where conservatives were there to speak the truth, to speak common sense. Like he did that during his campaign, right? Common sense conservative. You're not common sense and you're not a conservative. I at one point we have to take responsibility for this, and that's why I call him out all the time. That's why I call the Conservative Party out all the time, because it's our fault.
Well, there's a reason why he's going to Alberta, and I think it is to pour some water on the movement. And he had to go find a riding that was very strong because he could have lost. If he went to the Edmonton riding, which was the rumor at the beginning, he could have lost that. Yeah, that would have been back to Liberal. There's another seat for them for sure. So that one got quashed pretty quickly, and he went to the highest riding show out in Alberta. Now, why Alberta? Why do you think Pierre's going to Alberta? He could have gotten a seat in Ontario. He could have picked up one from there. But why Alberta?
Maybe have you seen this? Have you seen the what was it, CBC? Yeah, I think it was CBC. Has a great map of all the ridings, who won. Like, you can look at Canada and just look at the color. Did you look at Alberta? It is literally blue. It's blue. There's two ridings, if I remember correctly, that were won by the NDP and one by the Liberals. But I think there's 2 or 3 ridings that don't belong to the Conservative. But when you're just looking at the map of Canada, all you see is blue. That's why he's there. That's the only reason why. I think that it's just there's. You know what? Let me answer your question by asking you a question, because you'll know more than I do. But as an Albertan, would you vote for Pierre Poilievre if he was in your riding?
No, because he's a nationalist. He doesn't have Alberta issues at heart. He's been there for 20 years, haven't been pushing for Alberta. You don't hear him talk about Alberta until it's convenient. And then now suddenly he's parachuting in. And I actually think if he had to pick the highest ridings show up, because anywhere else he could have lost. He may have lost a seat for the Conservative Party in Alberta because he is not for Alberta's values.
Do you think that could still happen? Because if that happens, I would laugh so hard, because I wouldn't be surprised.
To be honest with you, I think he's going to win this one because there isn't a candidate that stands out strong enough. The PPC is running their candidate, but I don't think Alberta's ready to go ahead and swap for another candidate. So I think he's going to win. But what I do think we're going to see is we're going to see a drop from 83% down to a much lower number. And that's going to reflect the sentiment in Alberta. And that might be sending a message to the Conservative Party that, look, you brought your leader here, but we actually support him less than the incumbent did. So we might see a little mini referendum in this by-election on April 18th or August 18th.
August 18th, yeah. But at the same time, how must you feel that you have somebody that you voted for that is ready to step down for a leader that's never going to be there? Because Pierre Poilievre's not going to spend time in Alberta.
No.
Because, that's another thing. He's been doing nothing now since, April? May? He hasn't had a job now? Why is he not in Alberta right now? Why has he not been hitting the street and talking to everybody for months now? Why has he almost disappeared? He literally, if you look at his social media, he completely disappeared for almost a month and a half. Now he's starting to do stuff again. But I would be very spiteful if I wasn't that riding. And what is it? Crowfoot. I would be spiteful. I would vote for anybody else than him, because I wouldn't. He's not there for you. He's there to get a job again, to be the leader again. But he doesn't care about the people there.
No, not at all. He doesn't talk to their values. He doesn't talk to their prosperity. And he's definitely coming down. In my opinion, they picked Alberta on purpose to try and get some of the separation conversation to go away. If you have the leader there and he's going to talk national unity, and he might become the next prime minister as from that riding. That might be their long-term plan. I'm not sure, but I don't think he's there for Alberta at all. He's there for Canada.
And could you see, as an Albertan, them voting against him out of spite?
Yeah, but to who, though? is going to be the big question. Is it going to be the PPC candidate? Is he going to pick up 18%? So we had a provincial by-election in Edmonton, and Cameron Davies from the Republican Party of Alberta ran in that by-election and picked up 18% support against the UCP candidate. So UCP support dropped, and a lot of it went to the separatist candidate, as I like to call him, the Republican Party. I think the same thing's going to happen in this riding with Pierre. It won't be Liberal, it won't be NDP, but there's a whole bunch of independent candidates running. So if there's somebody running on a separation or an independent ticket, they may gain speed. But here's what's going to happen. There's going to be no debate. Pierre's not going to show up for a debate. He's going to do rallies, but he's not going to do a debate. He's going to walk that line very delicately. He might talk about gun rights and property rights and parental rights, but he won't touch the sovereignty movement issue. And I think he may get support from even big hitters like Danielle Smith. She may be supporting him on this by-election.
I don't know, man. It's one thing. It bothers me. That whole thing bothers me. It really blows my mind that people are ready to give him so many chances. He doesn't deserve them. Like, he's had plenty of opportunities to shine, to do something that would show that he's a leader that people need, that people want. And yet, time and time again, he falls short. Mm-hmm. He doesn't stand up for the easiest win. And people like to blame his team. But guess what? A leader chose his team. Who takes the blame when your team does something wrong, when your team fails? The leader. Who's the leader? Him. So it just, again, I'm so fed up with him getting chances upon chances upon chances. And, you know, as much as I blame the Liberals for the past 10 years of terrible, terrible policies, a guy like Pierre Poilievre, if he would have had balls, would have won the last election. Would he have done that much better than the Liberals? I think he would have stopped the bleeding. I think it would have been paused. I don't think he would have moved that needle, but I think it would have paused the bleeding, giving time, giving 4 years for a real conservative or another person to show up, like a Danielle Smith, for example, because I could see her wanting to be in federal. Maybe I'm wrong, but I could see her. She's walking the line pretty smartly right now. That she could be on either side right now, at least in the public eye. But at the same time, there just needs to be people like, I think, you and I, and this is the next thing. I'm just telling you this, but the next thing I want to start doing is finding more real conservatives, doing what I'm doing with Rob, but doing it with real conservatives, where we can talk about what the problems are. Because I don't think a Liberal government is what's going to save Canada. It's real conservative values that are going to save Canada. Like, I just posted that yesterday. Like, to save Canada, we need real conservatives. Conservative with a big C needs to stop pandering to the left and actually stand up for real conservative values. So I think that conversation, as much as it's great that I have the conversation with Rob about trying to create something in the middle or to find common ground with people that call themselves liberals, we still need to define what a conservative party or what conservatives are in Canada, because as much as we don't have a Canadian identity anymore, we definitely don't have a conservative identity either.
Now, you brought up Danielle Smith, and you said it was pretty smart what she's doing here. Maybe a future leader of Canada, Conservative Party. Now, what are some of the things you like about what she's doing, and maybe touch on some of the things you don't like what she's doing?
You know, I don't see, again, you have to understand I'm not from Alberta, so I don't know her behind the scene. I know people that do, and I've heard some rumors, but she is very smart. Politically wise, if you look at her, she is walking that line so tightly that I'm not even sure, again, from a public perspective, if she's a separatist or she's not. Because she's kind of selling outside of Alberta. She's giving the idea that she wants Alberta to still be part of Canada, either as a province or maybe as a sovereign entity within Canada. But she doesn't speak about the independence or the sovereign movement. But at the same time, you look at what she's doing with Alberta Next to say, hey guys, we're going to do a bunch of town halls over the summer. We want to know what you think. We're going to have a referendum 2026, which is clever because it gives her plenty of time to talk to the people. So it's amazing to see a leader that's ready to talk to its people. Like, what a concept, right? Having a leader that will ask questions to the people they represent to see what they care for. What a concept. But that's the idea that she's selling. Like, I really like the idea that she's selling. But at the same time, you look at, she made a video on her Alberta Next website where they're talking about not giving social services to immigrants. So to pick and choose, like they're very clever in the way they're to some immigrants. But okay, cool. I agree. That should be done Canada-wide. Like you shouldn't be able to show up here and right away get our social services that guys like me have been paying for 25 years, 30 years, same thing for you. So she's very clever, and I love the way she's approaching it because she is walking that line between staying in Canada and maybe independence, but she seems to be giving the power to the people to just wash her hands if, well, they want to be independent, so you know what? We'll be independent. But she, very clever. Like, she gave a speech, I don't remember when it was, but it was about a month ago. She gave a speech where she introduced the idea of the sovereign movement and, you know, having the referendum next year. Brilliant. Like, I was listening to her, I'm like, no fault, zero. She went on for like 20 minutes straight, and I'm just like, this will be taught in politics. Like, this in political science will be taught. A speech like her, she walked the line perfectly. She didn't take any questions. She left. That is marketing 101, because she's like, we'll take your questions tomorrow. So smart. She knew it was a perfect performance. She should have just dropped the mic and walked away, just like, I'm done. I'm going to go eat now. But from an outside perspective, she's about the only politician that I actually like. I like to listen to her. I like the way she's walking the line. Like this week, she introduced the fact that they're going to start their own police. Mm-hmm. Because, the RCMP's contract is up for like 2032, so obviously we need to consider what could happen. She's setting up a police force to replace the RCMP in case the independence goes through. Because it's going to take time to figure out the logistics to put a plan together as to, because they were saying 80% of your police calls are made to municipal police, but that means there's still a 20% that's being filled by the RCMP. So you need something to replace it, and it's not going to be done overnight. So you need to have a plan. That to me is brilliant. It's brilliant because it looks like she's calculating all those little things that, you know what? We'll sell it as in we want to see if there's an alternative to the RCMP. Yeah, why do you need an alternative if it's only 20%? We all know why. Because you want to that if next year you find out in your referendum that people want to move away from Canada, you already have the plan. You've already done what needed to be done in order to make it happen. It's clever. It's super clever. Again, that is from a third party's perspective, right? I'm not from Alberta, but I follow the news extremely closely. I like what she's doing, and I like the way she's selling it, because she's walking the line. Right now, I don't know if she is a separatist or not. Right. She's not telling us. Obviously, I'm sure that she's more separatist than she is to stay in Canada, but at least I'm hoping that she is. But if you just look at the public image, what she's putting out there, Pierre Poilievre should learn from her. Because she stood up for guns, she stood up for freedom of speech, she stood up for, choice for vaccination, saying that you shouldn't be forced, you should have the choice. She said all the good things that me, for example, want to hear from a politician. She's clever, man. She's really, really clever, but I don't know how she is behind closed doors. I don't know how. I know you're smiling because I know you know a lot more than I do when it comes to how she is personally. But from my perspective, and Rob agrees, we like her. We like her.
Yeah, so I think you're referring to the Bill 54 announcement when she did that press conference where she laid out the changes, which included lowering the limit on the Citizens Initiative Act.
Yes, for the referendum, that it would go down from like 600,000, like 150, like I'm probably...
77.
There you go. Hey, yeah, I'm from Quebec, bro. So the fact that I remember that's close enough. But yes, that's exactly it. She was brilliant in that speech.
Paper ballots only, you need ID, you can only vote in your riding, no more voting from all over the place, more restriction on special ballots. It was her election reform.
So let me ask you this. How do you feel about Daniel Smith from an Alberta perspective? As you know what? Actually, let me backtrack this. Do you want Alberta to be sovereign within Canada, to be sovereign, or to separate, or to become the 51st state?
That's an excellent question. At this stage, I'm doing conversations, so I'm looking for more information. But what I do want is I want Alberta to take the lead, and whatever that future looks like. So I want Alberta to take that next step. So is it going to be the next step is the referendum and the result of the referendum, and then to build from that. So if it's a yes, what does that mean within Canada, outside of Canada, within the States? But what I'm not a fan of right now is going through a divorce and then getting into a quick marriage. If we're going to do the divorce from the King and Ottawa, stay that way for a while before you start even entertaining joining the U.S. I would like to see basically be single for a little while and see what our options
You
are.
want to play the field there?
A little bit. If that's the direction we go, that's the path I'd like to see us take.
So do you agree with the way she's doing it right now, as in she's still trying to kind of save the relationship, or at least she's trying to keep the relationship with Ottawa open, but at the same time she seems to be giving all the tools to the citizens of Alberta to make the choice, to eventually just say, you know what, here's the questions. Do you want to stay in Canada? Do you want to be sovereign? Do you want to separate? Do you want to be the 51st state? Tell us what you want. I don't know what the questions are going to be on that, on the referendum, but do you like her approach, as in, here are your choices and I wash my hands, I'll let you decide?
I think when she explained it in Bonnyville, I think she did a great job in letting us know that a third of Albertans are ready to go. Mm-hmm. A third doesn't want to go. It's the middle third who has kind of been undecided. And you got to be kind of careful, on politically at least, on how you address that middle third. Because if you come out strong for either side, you're going to alienate a whole bunch of people. But what she's doing is she's basically given Carney or Ottawa the this is my last chance to make this marriage work. So stop going to the bar, stop spending all our money, be nicer to the kids, providing all of these things before the divorce is actually happening. But also at the same time, getting a divorce lawyer, looking at the other options, starting to talk to Trump about what could this look like. I think she's preparing everything for divorce with the hope that that might be enough to straighten things out. But when she was talking in Bonnyville, she was very hopeful. And you can hear it in her speech. She was very hopeful that Carney would be a good partner to work with. She even called him pragmatic. Now, for all of us who's read his book and understand Carney for the last years, that was a really interesting word for her to use, pragmatic. But now I think she's starting to realize who she's dealing with, because she's now calling him two-faced and now starting to move a little bit faster on some of these other things like the Alberta Sheriff's Police Force and starting to put those things in place. She didn't call it the Alberta Provincial Police, because province may not be part of the title in the future. So she's definitely putting those signals out. Mm-hmm. Now, whether those are for Carney's pragmatic side to see that she's serious about it or not, I think she's basically looked her spouse in the eye and said, look, here are the things we need, and if you can't do that, we're going to proceed. Now, what she's really good at doing, I think, and this is where I'll give her some credit, is she's good at speaking to that middle third. Because the other two sides don't need to be convinced. They already know where they land. Mm-hmm. It's that middle third. And if you give them enough hope to pay attention to your path, and the other side is the one that drops the ball or makes it very clear that, no, we don't care about your prosperity or your future or your children or your pension, then you can actually win them over to the side of independence. So I think the path that she's on right now is to keep that door open. And it's going to work, because I know where Carney is going to go with this. Just read the book Values. He's very clear. It should have been just called I Hate Alberta. That would have been about the same title. But when she realizes a little bit more that he's not as pragmatic as she was hoping, and he is two-faced, she may be leading a lot more people to the yes vote.
And that's exactly how I see it too. And that's why she's very clever, because I speak to the middle third every day. I don't need to convince a conservative to be a conservative. I just need to show you that I'm going to stand up for what you believe in when the time comes. I'll be the guy. But they're not the people I need to convince. You're already on my side. You already agree with me. It's the people in the middle that you need to handle with kitty gloves, because one thing that you say wrong might push them on the other side. But she's very clever, because she is putting it all on Carney. she's very clever to say, here are our demands. And I would agree. I would imagine a lot of people in the middle agree with what she's saying, as in, we need more from you guys. We need you guys to stop doing this. You need to let us build pipelines. You need to let us do what we can do to rebuild our economy. I don't think there's anybody in the middle third that disagrees with that. And I think that's what's so brilliant about what she's doing, because she's literally, here are our demands. And the middle third can't read those demands and say, no, no, no. They are like, oh, yep, I think I agree with that. I think I agree with that. Or at least they're open to the conversation. And by throwing that in Carney's camp and just say, here's what we need. What are you going to do now? She can literally just continue pointing her finger at him. They're saying, oh, see, he's not answering again. So it's okay, guys. We got you. We're going to do Alberta next. He hasn't responded to her from 2 months ago. What did she do? She didn't wait. She's like, okay, here. Perfect. Alberta next. What do you think that is? That's for the middle third. Because I'm sure that the people that want separation are like, you're not going fast enough. Let's do this already. The people on the other side are like, we're not moving. So those Alberta next are for those 1/3 of people that saw that list of demands. They're like, man, I hate to admit it, but I think she's right. I think, yes, that makes sense. They want to be convinced. They're open to having the conversation. So again, everything that she's doing, I don't know who her team is, but there's some very smart people around her. Like, I don't think that she's a yes woman, right? She doesn't surround herself by people that just says yes. Again, I'm talking from the outside, but there's some intelligence there. Like, there are people that understand how to handle the middle third. And as I said before, I think she's doing it brilliantly. If I can, everything I've been saying right now, I'm stepping away as I'm playing devil's advocate, right? I'm sitting in the middle and I'm just like, okay, hold on. Where's she going with this? And I think she's clever. But she probably irritates a lot of people that wants to separate, right?
Well, I think what she does really well is maintaining relationships. But when she decides it's over, it's over. So if you're in her inner circle and she doesn't need your efforts anymore, or you've done something to cross her, or you've become a bit of a liability, she'll cut you off. But I think that's a good trait, because if that's going to be Carney, if Carney's going to be the one that kind of lets her down, there is no carrot. It was just an empty string all along. Because right after the election, she was hopeful that he would be able to negotiate with her and keep things together. But she was also the first premier that went to talk to Trump. She was the first premier to do something about the border security. She went and had conversations about tariffs, and that's why energy only had 10% versus the rest of Canada had more. She was very pragmatic, there's that word again, about the relationship with Trump going forward. But she was also, I think, optimistic when it came to Carney. But she's learning quick. So if Carney crosses her, makes her look like a fool, because she really has done that within Canada conversation, a little bit stronger than people would like to see. But if he crosses her, I think she'll be the first to end that relationship. And if that's what happens, she can turn to Alberta and say, we tried. So what is next? Well, what's next is what you guys said on these town halls. It's to be a very sovereign nation. And she did a Freudian slip in Bonnyville. She said the nation of Alberta instead of the province of Alberta. She quickly corrected herself, but when she said nation, you could tell that the energy in that room spiked, because that's exactly what we want to hear from her. We want to hear her talking about the new nation of Alberta.
Though, I would not be surprised if somebody that's done a lot of NLP certifications, how to get in people's mind. And this to me is the type of stuff I used to do in sales all the time. I'd show up to a very important meeting and I'd crack a joke just to read the room, just to see who's laughing. If it's crickets, I'm like, I know how to set the tone for that meeting. If somebody laughs, that's my new best friend right there. Because if I can make you laugh, I got you. I wouldn't be surprised. I think she's clever enough to do it on purpose to make it look like it's a slip to read the room. Because the nation of Alberta sounds pretty cool, actually. It sounds really cool. But I wouldn't be surprised if she did it on purpose. Because she's clever, man. She's clever. You see it in her face. Like, I'm very good at reading people. She doesn't have a lot of mannerisms. That's what drives me nuts about a guy like Pierre Poilievre. He has a lot of mannerisms that are very weak. Carney has a lot of evil mannerisms. The way he moves, he reminds me of Evil Byrne. Like the way he moves, you can tell he's not a good person. But Daniel Smith is normally very in the middle. She's hard to read. she's very conscious about the signal that she puts out there. So I wouldn't be surprised that that was not a slip, that she said it. And the fact that she grabbed onto it so fast, that to me, I wouldn't. I'll have to. If you have the video, send it to me, because I'd like to see the way she responds. But she made everything the reason why I'm saying this is that everything that she's done is very public. She didn't shy away from showing that she had support for Trump, that she would go to see him. She posted the pictures like at the party with them, with O'Leary. Like O'Leary was down there too, and she wasn't scared to post that. She wasn't scared to say that she is in talks with Trump's organization for the tariffs. She wasn't scared to say she needs to fortify the border. She was never doing it behind closed doors like a Carney would. So to me, I think it's all calculated. She might not know where the referendum is going. I don't know if I can't predict the future, but she's handling it in a way that whatever happens, she can wash her hands from it and just say, this is what I tried to do. She's clever, man. I just, to me, anybody interested in going in politics should pay attention to the way she's handling things, because she's just clever. She seems clever, at least.
Well, Alberta's a different type of beast, though, because that's where a conservative government can be toppled and replaced. That's how she became the premier of Alberta, replacing Jason Kenney during the COVID stuff. So she knows that Alberta can get together, get the votes. The party itself can basically do a non-confident through a leadership review and let you know it's time for you to go. That's how she got in there. So she understands fully that the dynamic in Alberta is a little bit different. You don't see this happening in other parts of Canada where they take the leader out, or even on the conservative side. So she knows. And I do think she's got to walk a tight line here. And she is clever. This is something that a lot of people around her do say. She's very calculated, very clever, and she handles her words well, being a journalist. So she did a lot of that before. So as we're starting to wrap up here, for Quebec, now if Alberta does take that step and it is a yes vote, what happens in Quebec right after? Because there's a lot of money.
Welfare state's already here, so.
We're sending a lot of money there, and that would be something that would be on the table as being removed for Quebec.
I have no clue, man. I was telling you that before the show. My wife and I spend a lot of time in the U.S. She's Italian, so we literally can go to Italy and stay there because she's a citizen. And I'm looking, and we've talked about this the other day. Like, I have a good woman, I got to say that. And she openly came up to me the other day, and she's like, if we ever stay in Canada, because we're not sure right now, like we both don't really want to stay here because we don't like where the country's going. And considering the way I talk, if Carney's in power long enough, it's a matter of time before you have another hate speech that shows up. I think Bill C-63. It's just a matter of time before that shows up again, and I'm going to get in trouble. That worries my wife, right? But she came up to me the other day, and she's like, if we ever have to stay in Canada, we're going to move to Alberta. So, I don't know, man. I think Quebec's screwed. Ontario's screwed. The East is screwed. But at the same time, I don't know if there's a way to wake them up, to wake Quebec in a way where they need to understand that without Alberta, they're in trouble. And this is a bit what I'm trying to do with Rob, is to kind of talk to the people in the rest of Canada, because we don't need to convince any Albertans. At least the Albertans that follow us, they're like, faster, let's do this faster. It's not happening fast enough. But hopefully we can open the eyes of some people from Quebec, because Rob would like the country to stay the way it is. And if I'm thinking globally, I'd rather a Canada with Alberta in it than without it. Because what's to say that Saskatchewan's not going next? What's to say that half of BC doesn't separate and follow through and build all the pipelines to the Pacific that Alberta needs, right? So and that will happen. That will happen. So I don't know. Maybe there's a way to save them, but at the end of the day, I'm a big fan of accountability. So if Alberta separates and Quebec ends up becoming even more of a welfare state, because now they're going to be a real welfare state, as in they won't have any money. So they won't be able to, sorry for my French, I've never said that, but to suck on the titty of Alberta anymore. They're going to be screwed. But at the same time, I don't feel really too bad. I have options. Personally, as a person with my family, we have options. We can leave here. But I don't know, man. I think that if it does happen, it's on them because they should have supported you. They should have supported Alberta. You guys have been screaming about this for years. Now you have an actual very intelligent politician that is trying. I don't understand why she's still trying, but she is actually trying, and she's in the news all the time talking about this. So if they're not going to pay attention, if Quebec and Ontario won't pay attention, they deserve the consequences that they're going to get. Because how long do you need to wake up? If you're not going to wake up, sorry, not sorry. It's going to be your problem, and they're going to live with the consequences, but they're not going to like it. That's for sure.
Well, we may be very patient, but we're also pragmatic, and I think Danielle might be showing us that. And when the decision comes and it's over, it'll be over. There'll be no ceasing. So I do think that that might be the future here. We'll see what the referendum come back as. Do you have any last messages for Albertans?
I get you, man. I get you. And you have a supporter here. Like, as much as I know Albertans don't like French people much, but I like Albertans. I like what you guys are standing for. I like the fact that you're ready to stand up for it. Because you guys deserve it. At the end of the day, I don't like to be a victim. And if there's a way for me to not be a victim anymore, this is what I'm going to do. That's why I learned how to fight, and you guys are fighting back. So finally, to me, it's just about time. And whatever the consequences are for Quebec, Ontario, the rest of Canada, that's our fault. We messed up. We keep on messing up. And you know what? You can only beat up somebody so many times before they actually fight back. You guys are fighting back, so good for you. And I'll continue talking about what you guys are doing because I'm happy that you guys are fighting back. I hope you guys separate. Frankly, I hope you guys separate because I'll be laughing and laughing and laughing because it's not going to impact me. But yeah, I hope you guys separate and actually redevelop your economy the way it's supposed to be because you guys are proud to be Albertans and you should be. You should be.
Thank you very much, Nico, for your time. Appreciate that. Well, there you go. It's time. He's supporting it. He does think we need to do it, and maybe Danielle Smith is the right one for it. Quebec did it for cultural reasons, but we are looking at it for prosperity reasons. We need to take care of our future and make sure our children and many generations to come are taken care of, and this is our chance to do exactly that. So do share this message out there. Go check out the Political Orphans because the conversations there are fair, unbiased, and they're growing. So check that out and make sure you follow Rob and Nico as well. Well, thank you very much for your time and have yourself a wonderful day. God bless.